gosh, look at the crowd.
Come this way.
Those who spread goodness radiate happiness to everyone around them. Introducing LOLC Finance Credit Cards. Fuel the goodness in you.
You love the feeling of being renewed. To stay beautiful every single day. To breathe just like we do. Because you are truly delicate. Protecting the ones who've been with us through the years. With Sayalac Care, the only wood coating that truly protects you. Sayalac Wood Coatings from JAT.
Welcome to LMDtv. I'm Fazmina Imamudeen. And tonight with us is Chandula Abeywickrema, who is the founder and chairman of Lanka Impact Investing Network, which is Sri Lanka's first ever impact investment fund. I warmly welcome you to the show, Chandula.
Thank you very much. Greetings.
I'd like to start with a country's ranking done by TISL Sri Lanka. We are ranked 102 out of 80 countries, and that is not something we can be very proud of. Now, what would you call are the main reasons for us to be so corrupt that we are ranked at a low level constantly by the TISL's Corruption Perception Index? And in general, where did we go wrong in this within this decade from 2012 to 2022?
So if you are talking about the ranking as well as the relatively recent past, 2012 to up to now, but I think the whole process, I mean, I would say the root cause began a little longer period than that. So I think the corruption is there in every country, even the developed countries, in the United States, Japan, Germany. I mean, time to time you hear politicians, businessmen, bureaucrats all time surfacing in the corruption. So there are different yardsticks as well as the rating agencies, whether you are 1, 2, 3 or 104 is not the question. What the people of the country feel that we are being taken for a ride and we are part of a corrupt society led by few of the corrupt people. So the structure, the mechanism, how did it come to this status now? So if you really look at, though we currently point directly at the politicians are survived by the structure. So the corruption foundation started from the business mechanism, business community, as well as the bureaucracy. Now, Sri Lanka was a country until 1977, boasted about one of the best of the bureaucracies that matched India, Japan, Italy, and some countries like that. We had the best of the bureaucracy. We had the best of the judiciary up to 1977, though there were a little bit of bits and pieces here and there negative. We have the best of the parliamentarians up to 77, though they were not making money, they were kind of spending a lot of their money up to 77. Then we have the best of the police force. So these are the four great institutions, mechanisms the country had up to 1977 that intact. Of course, there were a little bit of cracks here and there, but by and large, these four great institutions, even the parliament, judiciary, the bureaucracy, and the police. And they were the kind of, I would say, the guardians or the custodians ensuring the society is responsible enrichment comes to the society. What happens was after 1977, then the elected government got unprecedented power, and the president period of presidency, which corrupted all these four institutions. The bureaucracy was, even a GA was more powerful than a cabinet minister at that time. You know, just government agent. And the bureaucracy could not be tempered by the politician at that time. So the bureaucracy was tempered. Then thereafter, the judiciary was tampered. Judiciary was independent. Chief justices houses were attacked with stones. And the president used his brother, then president, to tamper with the judiciary in an unprecedented manner during the 77. And then the police, which was also independent at that time, became a kind of a tool in the hands of the politician. Worst was the parliament. Went to a referendum and got all the parliamentarians' resignations versus hands into the executive powerful president. And that really created this kind of a corrupt mechanism, where the bureaucracy, the parliament, all these institutions, judiciary, then to the fourth was the business community. That was created after 1977. We had a Sri Lanka, we had a very strong and a powerful middle class. And unprecedented group of businessmen came with corruption back in their mind to make unprecedented amount of exponential revenue generation. And they in turn sustain the politicians. Politicians in turn sustain the businessmen, and sustain the bureaucracy, and all these four institutions were tempered.
Now, if we are to talk about the cost of corruption, previous estimates have ranged as high as 10% of GDP, which is around $8 million. Now, this is an amount that is sufficient to meet our annual debt obligation. What is your estimate of the cost of corruption in Sri Lanka?
I think I would say the cost of corruption is compounding to that amount, much more. It is much more deep-rooted. Now, for instance, as I told you, when you corrupt, one of the great structure and mechanism like bureaucracy, the police, judiciary, and the parliamentary mechanism, the cost of that cannot be measured by 8 million or 10 million or it is unprecedented, and it is passing to generations. And it's an enhancing cost. It's just not one figure. It's an enhancing cost. So that's what I say. 8 million could be multiplied in hundreds.
8 million, yeah. Now, in that sense, I would say it's going to be baby steps that we are going to take. If possible, zero tolerance for bribery and corruption. Now, how can we go towards a goal like that, where we create a culture which is free of bribery and corruption, zero tolerance, in other words. Now, do you have a vision and how, on how to develop this culture, a structural approach, maybe?
See, there are a number of stakeholders in a country. These things cannot be done by a single-handed, even by one single politician or group of politicians or the entire parliament, government, and official. There's a whole mechanism involved, structure involved. As I told, it is the businessmen that corrupt the politicians. It is the politician that corrupt the bureaucracy. And it's the bureaucracy that corrupts, so it goes on like that. Yeah. So what happens is, we need to drive this mechanism. We need to really make sure that there has to be a structure in a place. There is a fairness to all, so that there is no businessman, for instance, if you want to get a government tender, there has to be a proper evaluation, so that there should not be any favor for one particular person who kind of do something and they get the contract. So we need to make sure that all these critical stakeholders, particularly, I would say the private sector has a significant responsibility. Private sector, when I say the corporate business sector, the people who are paying taxes, the people who are really responsible. For instance, I'll tell you, I've been in the corporate sector for nearly 40 years. Do you know that the corporate businesses either avoid tax or they evade tax, right? No, both are wrong. Now, what happens? You get a good consultant, and that tax consultant make various ways to avoid tax, and somebody would evade tax. Now, that's the root cause. Now, if you do that, then I think you are drying up the way how you are going to kind of feed the bureaucracy to evade or avoid taxes, right? So if you are a responsible corporate citizen, you would pay the rightful tax liable for your organization, and all stakeholders, giving the right price for your employees, right product for your customers, right background to your society. All that has to be rightfully done. So I think what happens is we need to make sure that the people who are responsible for feeding corruption need to be dried up. And that involves many things. And I would say right on top of it, for instance, now we have the audit firms, tax firms, legal firms, and all these things are finding ways how the businessman can evade or avoid taxes and create exponential revenue generation at the expense of the majority of the community or the society. So I think we need to drive the mechanism that feed this kind of a corrupt river of flowing into many other areas of corruption.
Correct. Now you said that corruption is a cyclical, it's an evil cycle, if I want to, repeat what you said in my words. Now, we also, as a trend in Sri Lanka, now at the current climate of the country, we have a trend where political leaders are blaming the people for electing them onto the positions when they have done a bad job. But it takes two to tango. And if we are to blame, whom are we going to blame? The giver, the taker, the authority that is supposed to look into these things, or the system that has been built over the years?
See, what happens is, as I told you, now the democracy has a certain value system, and sometimes when the democracy is also corrupted, that value system also leaves the democracy. Now that is what happened in 1977, when the entire people's power was vested instead of on the people. Now we say for the people, by the people, through the people, or whatever it is. But when the people's power is democratically stolen and vested on an individual position, there is no, that is the first step that Sri Lanka has gone wrong, right? So thereafter, you create a kind of a mechanism which is all the time has stolen and robbed the people's right to democratically elect people. So what happens is, firstly, we need to go back to the process where the fairness of the democracy need to be restored back. So like in countries like the European countries, America, even India, for that matter, and Japan, there is the governance, dual controls, and the checks and balances, all that is in place. But what happens is, when democracy is corrupted, that corrupts the whole mechanism. I think what I would say in 1977, when Jayajawardena got unprecedented 4/5 of power, he corrupted the democracy. And that corruption, we are not able to, still we are going through that. And then as a result of that corruption, bureaucracy, corrupt bureaucrats are thriving, corrupt businessmen are thriving, corrupt policemen are thriving, corrupt parliamentarians are thriving.
Now, Aragalaya is there to question this at the moment. We see, the Aragale is playing an important role in making us question this. Now, I'd like to ask my next question based on that. From what we have seen over the past few years, how do you see Aragale fighting corruption? And if you are to talk about the lessons that we can learn from the Aragale, what would you consider to be the best, to be the most effective, least effective, and the most practical?
So Aragalaya that is taking place in Gulf-Face Gotago has done some things which has never was possible in the history of our country, some of the things. But that's only, I would say, 30% of the whole turn of events that need to be rightfully directed at. Aragalaya, to be successful, it has to be more inclusive. It cannot be only youth-led. It has to be more inclusive to cover all the segment of the society in this country. It has to be bring all the affected people, the farmers, the workers, the housewives, the women, the youth, the senior citizens, and all segment of the society. It has to be inclusivity. Now, currently, it looks like it doesn't have that inclusivity. Though I would commend Aragalaya because they have created a certain awareness creation about the current status of the country, and with regard to, actually, it started by the common man going to the street with pots and pans and beating drums and starting Mirihana, and thereafter farmers also coming. But now the youth commends that that's commendable. But Aragale, if it continues in the same fashion, it will die a natural death. So it has to really be more inclusive to cover the horizontally, vertically, all the segments of the Sri Lankan community, because they are the ones who are affected. It's not only the youth, it is the children, it is the women, it is the housewives, it is the working class, it is the farmers, it is even the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs, small entrepreneurs, medium-sized entrepreneurs, all are affected. So you need to bring that inclusivity to drive a more inclusive kind of finesse to an Aragale.
Yes. Now, if you are to move the private sector's role in handling corruption, what do you think should they, they should be doing to educate their employees on corruption, and what steps can they be taking to help the employees stay in that specific path of ethics, morale, and good governance? Especially, what are those important things that the private sector should be doing about the problem?
Whether it's small businesses or medium-sized business or micro business or corporate businesses, there is a mechanism that kind of regulate them. Now, for instance, there are diversity of businesses. You have the agriculture sector, you have the banking and the finance sector, you have the education sector, you have the hospitality sector, you have medical sector. So all these businesses have a regulatory mechanism that regulates the entire business. Now, this regulation has to be without any bias or without any corruption to regulate the businesses. Whatever the business, whether when you have to get a permit for environmental clearance, whether it's whatever the things, all that has to be done for any business or the banking, all these areas, the regulator has to be impartially pure. So we need to make sure that we first have a very strong, vibrant, clean and clear regulatory mechanism in the country to ensure the private sector fair play and fairness. Yes. Then that is from the government side. Then from the private sector side, also there are private sector regulatory mechanisms like audit firms, legal firms, tax firms, and all these things should look at more from the country's perspective as well as the business sustainability perspective to ensure, as I told you at the first point I made, without avoiding and evading taxes, making sure that your taxes are paid properly, right? And if you are trying to legally defend the corrupting, it is wrong, So like that, all those private sector regulation bodies also to be more responsible, more accountable, continuously to people all the time, apart from their own clients.
True. So political and oligarchical corruption is a major factor in driving people away from the country, because brain drain is becoming a huge issue for us, because we are losing talent and brain power. Now, what is your opinion on this?
See, the talent is not only by qualification. It is not becoming engineer or doctor or anything. Talent is there for many people. Now, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, they are not qualified. They went to Harvard, but they are dropouts, So the talent is there, creativity, innovation there in more people. Even an ordinary farmer has innovation. All the young guys have innovation and creativity. That innovation and creativity blossoms when they identify a problem of the society, problem or a difficulty, need of the society. Based on that need, you come up with your own idea, your innovation, your creativity, come up with a product or a solution or a system. And that's what we have seen in countries, not only developed countries, developing even Africa. Now in Africa, Kenya, you find so much of innovation. I have been to Rwanda, there's so much of innovation. There's Ghana, so much of innovation. And it is coming from not from somebody who is thoroughly qualified with PhDs. No. The people who understand the problems at the grassroots level, then come up with a solution, with an idea. And that is nothing to do with brain dead. People will always migrate. You can't stop that. People will always go to different countries. That have been happening in the world from the time immemorial when the population started in Mesopotamia. People have been migrating. That you can't stop that. But that will continue. But the innovation, the creativity, there is no limitation. There is no restriction. It can start from anywhere, as long as you are, because everybody has hands, everybody has a mind, everybody has eyes, and we can think. And that's not an issue. Anybody can start with solutions. And we have seen in our country, that's not an issue. I don't see that.
That's a very positive way of looking at the problem. Thank you for that. Now, my last question is, Sri Lanka, if it is to take a step back and learn from, let's say, effective governance by observing other countries, such as Singapore, New Zealand, Finland, Switzerland, would you think that this, taking the step back and learning something from them on good governance, is it a utopian concept? Or is it possible that we could one day build ourselves up to be like these countries?
No, this is my personal opinion. You don't have to look for Singapore, New Zealand, or Germany. Sri Lanka, I was a young boy, pre-1977 was a good country. We had good systems. As I told you, we had one of the bureaucracies in the world where even the Lee Kuan Yew came to Sri Lanka to look at how he's going to turn around the country. We had the good system in this country before 1977. One of the best bureaucracies in the world compared with Italy, India, and Japan. Best of the judiciaries. So we don't have to go to those countries. Go back to our where we missed out, we are in the wrong way, and restore that back. That's simple as that. There is no rocket science here. You have to don't compare Singapore. Our problem is our own problem which we have created. So go back to our own history where we went on the wrong way, and go back to that and correct it. Simple as that. I would not.
Is it possible for us to go back then?
You don't have to go back. You don't have to. You have to really go to where did you go wrong? And when we had a country which is more on a very much better structure, we had a very, very, very strong structure at that time. And the structure began to be tempered actually. First, it began to be tempered in 1975 when they started change the constitution. And thereafter, 1977, it is totally tempered with all the bureaucracy, the police, and the parliamentary and judiciary. So I think you need to really go back, because Sri Lanka was a country, and the people also. People, our religious institutions, our temples, our kovils, our churches were different. Now very commercial, you know. And all that was, you know, as a result of this fundamentally moving into a wrong direction at the right time.
Thank you very much. The discussion that we just had clearly suggests that corruption is malignant like a cancer, and it kills the faith a citizen could place on the system. And in Sri Lanka, corruption is normalized now. But from what you say, there sure is hope for a better tomorrow. And thank you so much, Chandula, for sharing your wisdom.
It's a pleasure indeed. Thank you for LMD inviting me.
Thank you again. And with this, the show comes to a close. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Good night.